I'm going to show you how I am currently working with Claude Code and other coding tools like Codex. So I developed this project planning methodology called festival methodology. So here's festival methodology repo. Basically, it's a hierarchical agent execution framework. And I've been working a lot on this Fest CLI. Haven't got to a beta release yet, but basically what this does is gives me a agentic guidance system that forces agents to follow the methodology. So right here, here's one running. I just kicked off, and this guidance system works like this. So I tell the agent to begin executing the festival after it's been planned with the fest execute command. So fest execute, it gives them these instructions, tells the agents all the context documents that it needs to look at to execute the festival, and then it gives them the steps that they need to follow. So right now they're setting up a new project from scratch with a project scaffold task. And then if I open this, so here's what a festival ends up looking like when it's planned out. So this is where I'm at now. So we've got phases. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 phases for this festival: foundation, scaffolding, navigation, shell integration. So we started here. We've got quality gates. So these gates over here, these ones are default, and it applies at the end of the creation. It'll apply all the gates. What that does is it creates these gate files. So like test and verify, code review, review results, iterate, and then finally commit. So for each one of these sequences, it'll go through these files. Each one of these is like a kind of like a Claude code to-do list. Tells the agent exactly what it needs to do, checks these off, and then when it finishes the sequence, it moves on to the next. And it just goes through that. Eventually, it'll move on to the next phase, and it'll continue until the entire festival is implemented. And there's some ergonomic commands like fgo, and in here I can still run best commands, best progress, 2%, best status, and I can jump back with fgo. That works with fest links. So all these links are like the linked festivals I have on my machine. And these just allow that quick toggle between the festival directory and the implementation directory. This is what the commits look like from Claude Code. Claude Code does a really good job of following the commit instructions exactly. So it gives me really detailed descriptions of exactly what's in each commit. So all these are from festivals that we're running. Example of what Codex commits end up looking like with the same instructions I give to Claude Code. Very light. So they're more like human looking than Claude Code. Not quite as detailed, but still detailed enough to know what that commit was focused on. So that just shows it works with both Claude Code and Codex. Those are the only two I tried it with, other than Gemini CLI when it first came out, but it was just not useful in general then, so I haven't tried it since then. Yeah, so I'll go back and start talking about Fest again. Here's another festival. This one's a pretty big one. So like when I first started out with festival, like if you read this current README on my GitHub, I explained like the basic framework for the festival, like how do you structure a festival, like what needs to go in there. And the way I was working with this initially was I had this festivals directory, and the CLI was just basic, and it would like help sync the festival files as I'm tuning them to your machine. So what I would do is say, I would point the agents at this one README. This README is fairly light, and then it points the agents here with the instruction to only read what they need to read to understand what they need to do. So they would just reference like the different templates and everything as it needed to. But what happens sometimes is that even with that, this instruct like the just-in-time approach of context management, they would often still read everything, which is about 130 something thousand tokens. So for like a Claude Code instance, you have 200,000 token context window fills 130,000 tokens with festival methodology resources. So it was obviously pretty inefficient, but it also still worked extremely well. So the results of planning a festival following the methodology have been basically 100% accurate at the end of the execution. I rarely have to go and correct the agents. I really have to do any iteration as long as the festival is properly planned, because the agent will correct their own mistakes. They'll do the commits, they'll do the code reviews, and then they'll iterate if they make mistakes to fix whatever didn't go according to plan before they commit. It was already working extremely well. And then I had this idea of just templating out the structure, because most of it's standardized and there's some variance in how it would end up being created. Added that to Fest CLI and saw immediate reduction and token usage of about 94%. And then after that, I started focusing on visualization and guiding the agents to create the structure. So the structures are very consistent and reduce the planning process. Initially, it would take me 1 to 2 weeks to plan out a really good festival for a new greenfield project, end-to-end build. And then when it executed, it'd be perfect at the end of the execution, according to my plan. So if my plan wasn't good, the execution wouldn't be that great. It would still be better than without the plan, but it wouldn't necessarily be 100% accurate. Still the case now. If the plan's not good, it's going to follow the plan perfectly. But to get a perfect plan initially, it would take me 1 to 2 weeks. Over time, it got down to about 2 to 3 hours, and now it's around, for the same size plan that would have taken 1 to 2 weeks when I first started using this method, before I actually defined it and opened this repo, that same scope of plan now takes me about 30 minutes. And that's because the guidance system instructs the agents on the planning, so I can go from a rough goal or maybe some initial specs or requirements, and I can just say, look at this directory with the scope of requirements in it, and plan out a festival for this work. And it'll do it, and it handles most of the planning, and it'll go and check things for the plan, do research, do everything it needs to do to create a good plan. And the guidance system helps instruct it and move it along. Let's go back to the camp festival. So it does it with this execute command. So you saw when we started, we were on the first task, now we're on the 9th task. And each task is equivalent to basically Claude Code plan. So each one has multiple to-dos that it's doing, but at every step, I could just keep running best execute. But that also doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? So you're executing, maybe you think, well, I'm going to execute once. Well, what do I do next? So you can also run best next is the same information. So it tells them which sequence they're in, what phase they're in, what tasks they're working on, the path to the task document itself with instructions to read it, and all the context documents they need to know about. And also, one other thing I forgot to mention, the reason the system works so good is because it breaks down complex goal down to sub-goals. So each of these levels, you have your festival goal, you have your phases, you have your phase goals, each sequence has a sequence goal, and then each task has their own goal as well. So we're basically breaking down the work from the highest level down to every single individual task that needs to happen. So this is extremely scalable, and it also means that you don't need the largest model. All right, now I'm going to explain the reason I've got different directories. So I work in a way where I've got a lot of projects being built at the same time. So I came up with this concept called campaigns. So what a campaign is basically like an AI planning directory, and inside a campaign you have festivals directories and projects. So you may have multiple projects for a campaign. And it's basically like the related context for a workspace. So like right now I've got background colors that tell me which project I'm in. So I know I'm in gray and has green for projects. That means I'm in guild. This other project called Brainyard, blue black background. And I can do that with about 4 to 5 different major initiatives at the same time. On each one, they have multiple projects, could have 5 or so being built at the same time. And that kind of explains that. So I think I've been working towards for a while. I started this project called Guild. So what Guild started out as is like a Golang AI agent framework that had the same support as all the agent frameworks on the market at the time. But as I started building it, I started just realizing like things that other frameworks were doing that I didn't really like or that could be done better. And it kind of evolved into this massive, basically, research project. So like one of the core concepts of Guild was this planning methodology that turned into Festival. And another one was campaigns, which is the AI workspace. Before I started using CLI coding, the way I was using AI to build projects is I'd always start with a scaffold. So like the problem with that is if you're iterating with the agent and you're iterating on the design, you can come up with different scaffolds, and you may realize like by the time you thought that the scaffold was going to work, you create it, you spend all this time laying out the structure, creating all the files, and then you realize, oh wait, I actually need to go a different direction. And then you got to spend the same time going and fixing the layout of the project, and it was just annoying. So this is one of the first tools I built right before I started using CLI agents. So what this is, it takes a scaffold layout that you get from Claude or a ChatGPT app, and you just type T2S and paste in the scaffold, and it creates it. It's also useful in Guild as a tool for the agents, because agents in the CLI, they can also generate the scaffold and then use this to scaffold tool to actually create all the directories for it, instead of going and calling all the bash tools that they need to actually create the scaffold. So it's just a bloat from just repeated tool calling. Also, with my Claude Code Max subscription, I can actually have like the freedom to kind of test without having to worry about running a giant personal bill. So early on, that was one of the main priorities for me, was being able to use Claude Code as a provider. So in Guild, I have support for all the common providers, in addition like Deep Infra and some other smaller ones. So I also have a provider abstraction that uses claude-code-go as a provider. So I built this SDK, and it's got full support for Claude Code. So I can do anything I can do with Claude Code with it, but I can also, in Guild, I can interact with it as if it's just a standard API provider. So all my agents, I can just choose, like, do I want to use a Claude Code agent, or do I want to use a OpenAI API agent? I can do the same thing with Codex and other CLI tools, and really just get like the full benefits of the CLI, whether that be subscription, all in one cost, or different tools and stuff that the CLI has available. I can get that all in the same. All right, so now let's go back, and like the camp festival has completed, so the status has completed. Another thing I forgot to go over earlier. All right, so festivals are all directory based. So if it's status of the festivals, they actually go into a physical directory. So I have like my active festivals, and these aren't ones that are actively being built all the time. Like sometimes it's just one that I put in active. I'm still kind of working on it, adding new phases and pods running occasionally or whatnot. Or I plan to run it soon. Then like when it's completed, do status, set completed, it moves to the physical directory here. So I don't think I've committed. So all my planning documents are in that campaign. All right, so yeah, so all of my festival statuses, I have like all the ones I've completed, all the ones active, all related to this campaign, which is the Guild framework. So a bunch of planned ones. But what's really cool, like another thing that's really cool about this, is before a festival starts, so if I go like a planned one, but I can also just physically review these plans, or I can have agents review them before it actually executes. And since the plans are followed 100% pretty much every time, I can catch issues with these plans before there's actually any code changes made. So that allows me to not only just see exactly what the agents would do and kind of get an idea, but I can catch things like, obviously I forgot to plan out a feature that we need. And I can have agents help with that too, or I can just do it myself. So I do a little bit of both. And I vary like the amount of involvement I have based on the project. So like this is all stuff that's personal developer tools for me. So these ones, I'm a little bit more comfortable with them just running autonomously all the time than I am with something I'm doing for like a paid project. Or for instance, I've worked on a couple projects where somebody started the project not really knowing too much about software engineering and got a little bit ahead of themselves with AI tools, and basically created like a project that started off good and then it just turned into a complete mess that they can't maintain, they can't figure out how to fix. So in those cases, I'm a little bit more strict with my physical review. But when it's something I built from scratch, like a greenfield project, I feel more comfortable because I know everything about the project already. So I can just plan it out, do like a brief review. I don't have to go through these in detail, and make sure that the structure's right. The FestCLI helps with that too. So like for this one, just run fest validate, and it tells me like all the festival structure. There's these template markers that the agents can replace, and there's a wizard that'll help the agent figure out how to fill out the markers, and best markers commands to find them. And those markers just tell like the agent, gives them a hint on what to replace the marker with, so they're properly filling out the templates, and it does it in a way that doesn't overwhelm the agent and convince the agent it needs to create a script to fill out the markers and then not actually thoughtfully fill out the markers. So it gives it some guidance. Back to Guild again. So Guild's like this giant project, 374,000 lines ago. It's a pretty big project. Kind of one of the mistakes I made is that with building it is I built the agent framework, and then I decided to go and add that interface as a TUI tool. And agents are kind of bad with TUIs, especially for super complex ones. and that one still required a lot of focus. So I had to write the first one from scratch, and it worked. And then I took on some paid projects, and I had to lower my time I spent on building Guild, and I tried to do more automation before I really fleshed out the festival methodology to where it is today. I left the process going with the early version of festival method before I actually formalized it in festival, and it ran for about 2 weeks, debugging, working on the TUI interface, and basically just broke the entire integration. I haven't had time to actually go in and fix the code yet. So that's kind of what happened with Guild. So I've learned a lot from there, but I also needed parts of Guild as like my day-to-day work. So like the main thing with Guild, you have campaigns, you had the planning system in Guild was called objectives, and that evolved into the festival methodology. Pulled that, and the other thing concept is the AI workspace. So campaigns. So like I've got my Guild campaign, I've got many campaigns going on at the same time. All of the campaigns are basically set up similarly. So you have this top level repo, and then I have like all my standard context directories I need for each repo. Festivals or projects has all of my submodules for all the repos related to the campaign, and then I have work trees and AI docs and feedback and just everything I need for this particular initiative. And it's also tracked in Git. Reason for that is most CLI agents rely on this Git directory. They use the Git index to actually navigate your code. So if you want to like go into Claude Code and use the @ symbol to reference something, you have to have that Git index available for them. So that's another reason for it. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers the majority of festival methodology. Oh yeah, another thing I wanted to go over. So yeah, so I pulled out campaign, I pulled out festival methodology, and there's other subsystems in Guild that I wanted to go ahead and start using for other projects. So I've been helping out a friend of mine with this project called Brainyard. It's a multi-agent chat app. So again, in here you have this agent library, and you can select different agents. So I could like deselect Benjamin Franklin, put James Clear. And now when I send messages, it goes to all the agents at the same time. Functionality, I can send a message in this main chat. I have these 4 agents here, and then there's also an agent here. So the agent in this chat, the wizard, he gets all the information from here summarized down to a manageable amount of information and makes a decision. So you can kind of get like a different perspective on everything that you want to talk to. And you can also go in here and chat with individual agents. So that's one thing that came out of Guild. And another one, me and my brother built this project over Christmas. So this one relies a lot on the rack system from Guild. So like in Guild, I built a rack program DB, and like the idea of this one is you can share projects, and all the chats in that project have the shared context. So like in this first session, I discussed an Android app, and then I asked the second one, what language are we using? So we're pulling from the shared memory that we were using Kotlin. So Guild itself, while it's not a finished project, the components in it are pretty good, and the R&D that went into it has allowed me to just build things like crazy. All right, it's been about 6 days since my first video. Got a campaign running over here, and I've completed a dungeon planned, and came up with this new concept. I'll keep talking about this. So we've got dungeons, docs, AI docs. These AI docs are like ones that are relevant more for agents, or if I need the agents to do something that I'm not really gonna care about too much. And then this docs is for like human readable documentation. Then I've got workflows. So in here I've got like design, where I'm designing different things, and then feedback. So Festival has gotten so good that I can basically just kick off projects that just kind of build by themselves. So I end up doing other things while that's happening, and eventually it kind of gets to the point where I'm running out of things to build. So I wanted like an intake pipeline. Like I experimented with using like Sentry and Slack to basically track the intent of what needs to happen. So take like all the data I would use to figure out an issue, pipe it to one location, and use an agent to compile that down to actionable tasks that has access to the code base to read, and it plans out a little basic plan of what it thinks that I should do to solve the issue, and then I can just come in the morning, start reviewing some of the plans, and then kick off the festival process, where it'll go do the full plan and then execute the plan. So that was a workflow I've been using for a while. Like one of the gaps was sometimes I'll be working and I'll notice something, or I'll have like an idea. I want to look into this thing, and it just with this speed of development, I was just noticing like that's happening a lot more often. So I'm waiting for like big components to get finished, and other things are just in the back of my mind, or they're getting written down somewhere, but there wasn't like a good location for it. So I type content add and open, and I can just type out. I should make a video. All right, so then I can use like the cgo command, comes to camp, and jump straight to the intents. This one's a little bit of a work in progress. Goes to inbox, and then I can just set up basically a festival loop to go look through these and decide which one. I decide if I want to make it active, or if I'm finished with it, or kill it, or put it like in a ready status. That's the kind of idea with that. I just thought it was kind of cool because it got this big festival going. Let's see what's that now. Yeah, 10 out of 81 task. I use FGO to jump back to it to see where we're at. So Fest Next shows where we're at now. Test 2. Yeah, so right here. Yeah. So you can see these task files at Festival. They're way more detailed than what you would think of as a task. They have like all these to-dos right here and these ones. So each one is, it's a little bit better than my Claude Code plan, because this is like exactly what they are going to do. I think eventually, like another thing I want to eventually get to is I've already got this code that has a place where it's going to fit in, and it's right, and it's like based exactly on the project code base. So it's not like this is the idea of what you need to do, and then they just figure it out. They've already figured it out. So it's a little bit of a waste of tokens to go and have them go execute the plan. The reason I like to do this instead of just having them make the code changes directly is because, like, for instance, for this one, I had 5 phases at first, and then I realized like the fifth phase that I thought I was going to need required a component that's part of another tool that I'm building yet. So I just started reviewing it, realized, oh well, I actually don't want that yet. So I just moved that phase. So I moved that phase into my design workflow and put it into Obey, because that's what the other component's called. And that's basically like a daemon that runs and helps you monitor everything. Each campaign like has a bunch of different projects. So if I go back into this campaign right now, project list, and like these are all the projects I have in this one campaign. And many of these are going on in parallel. So like this is pretty much the way I work now. This would just be a better UI for that workflow. And the last piece for this ecosystem is Obey. And it's a daemon that runs on your main machine, and then you can connect to all your workspaces, like all your campaigns, like wherever you have them running. So you can have your campaigns on your machine, like this one, or you can use Camp list to see them all. But I can also have them running remotely. Yeah, this UI kind of brings the whole workflow together. So like in Guild, got like I can have like 3 projects or 5 projects going on at the same time, each in a different session. I can have like different agents in here, and it's a little bit different than like Claude Code sub agents. So like sub agents, the agent pulls up other agents with this interface. Each agent is basically like the main instance of Claude. So like this one would be like 3 Claude Code instances right here. This one's 2, but it's all in like the same session. So like to talk to the different agents in Guild, I can just type in like at planner, and then start talking just to the planner. And then I still see like the messages coming in from the other agents if I want. And then I can select to focus on one, but it's all in like one thing. And that would be the use case for that is like I have each session grouped to a project, and then all the agents I need for that one project and one page. But then have like little indicators, like these little things to know when something's done. So I know I'm done with whatever I'm doing here, I get it up and running. I know this one I can go to anywhere and start chatting with anywhere agents get them unstuck. And I can also monitor the festivals. So that was the kind of the idea for this. I'm kind of rethinking my workflow now that I've got more of it coming together. So like I don't really think I don't really think anymore that I need that. My goal now is just pipe things together as much as I can, and it's more about the intent. So ideally, what I want this intents feature to evolve into is not simply like jotting down quick ideas like that manually, but as things are popping into my head, just get it in there as quickly as possible. Have agents create intent pipeline of ideas that turn into projects. Here's an active festival that I just showed you. So it's got 4 phases. Can add another phase that's default and standard that handles my current process for iterating with the agent. So I'll be able to take like an intent, pipe it to that, and that'll get that like good plan, like initial plan that it needs to be able to plan out the whole rest of the festival, while also giving it every single instruction it needs to ensure the plan comes out correct. I also have different types of phases in a festival, and they have different execution plans. So right now I have the execution phase type or implementation phase type that execution works with, and it works flawlessly 100% of the time. And I'm building a similar system for every other phase type, but they all have different strategies on how it gives the instructions to the agents. So there's research, there's implementation, and there's ingest. Ingest one's going to be pretty standard. Basically, it can take an intent, which is like a rough idea, and then they'll take that and it expands upon it. It'll do some research if it needs to really flesh out the idea. It goes through a quality gate for the ingestion, and basically gives you the exact same type of thing that you get from a Claude Code plan. And that's what I use now for creating a festival. So I'll get the Claude Code plan, and then I give it the instructions it needs to know how to use the fest CLI, like with this fest intro command. So I'll tell it to run fest intro, and then this one gives it fest understand commands to understand the methodology, and teaches the agent how to plan out a festival and how to use the fest CLI, or this next phase type, the ingestion phase. It'll do all that for me. So I'll basically just have to give it the initial intent, and then that'll expand to what we need for the plan. And then the plan gets planned out 100% of the time without me having to do anything. And once those 2 are covered, that's like ingestion. And so ingestion, planning, implementing, when those are all at 100%, then it's really just about like driving the intent. I was working towards this interface to just make my current workflow from like a week ago more efficient and just easier to manage. So like this interface would basically allow me to do everything I've been doing on like 7 monitors on 1 monitor, and that's pretty cool. But now with this new intent-based flow, I don't really need that. All right, it's been a couple of months since my last video, so I'm gonna go over updates, how my workflows changed since then, and I also released Fest and Camp publicly, so you can install them very easily with Homebrew. So let me get into it. So as you can see, my workflow's gotten a lot more efficient in the last couple months. So compared to 2025, I'm close to double the output for the whole year of 2025. And in 2026, and 2025 is also pretty crazy, but 2026 is even crazier. It's already almost double the output from all of 2025 in the first 3 months of 2026 in terms of GitHub contributions. So I open Festival publicly, and what Festival is it's one place to install both Fest and Camp because they work together. So you can go here and copy this, brew install it if you're on Mac, and there's other ways to install it for other operating systems. I don't have support for Windows yet, but that'll come in the future. You can use WSL for now if you want to use it on Windows. All right, so I think I left off towards the end of my last video talking about Obey. So I built Obey. I haven't released it yet, but it does work. And then Fest Camp I started during this video, at the beginning of this video. So this one is now, it's now 122,000 lines of code. It's been polished. I added some new features. So I think I was talking about the intent work views. So I have festivals for the complex plans. So this is just an implementation type festival. And then for less complex plans, but something that's still more complex than what you want to use Claude Code planning mode for, I have two workflows for that. I just jumped to workflow, type cgo w. If you install the shell hook, or not install, if you set up the shell hook, you can use the shorthand commands like cgo, fgo, fls, and a few others like csw is how you switch between campaigns. So I'll just type it. So I type csw, enter, I get a little TUI where I can go and select which campaign I want to jump to. So jump over here, and type csw, jump back to the Obey campaign. And now let's go through all four workflows. So you saw the intent, early version of it. It's still fairly similar to add an intent. And then to explore the intents, there's an intent explorer. So you type camp intent explorer, opens an intent explorer output. And now for intents, they can be promoted directly to festivals, and you can also gather intents. So if I open this one, I type Control G, which, well, that's not working either. Huh. Okay, I know why it's not working. It's Google Chrome. All right, so the reason some of these commands aren't working are because I need to change them, keyboard shortcuts. But anyway, so I gathered when I'm not using Loom or Google Chrome right now, I can like preview the intents, and I can also, if I open one, I can hit Control G, and what that'll do is it'll gather like intents, so it detects which intentions are similar, and you get a preview window, and you can select the ones that are suggested that you think are similar, that you want to go into one intent, and then what you can do is you can promote it, and it goes down through the statuses, and eventually it'll allow you to promote it into a festival. And like since festivals are so capable, you can also just hit space and go and select as many as you want to gather, and then promote those into one festival. So you can knock out all of the intents in one festival. So that's the intent workflow. Now I have two more. If I go to workflow, you'll see I've got a bunch of different workflows, but the main two for festival are design and explore. So these two workflows, the way these work is all you do is you create a folder or a directory inside one with a name for the type of thing you're doing. Explore is used for research, and that could be exploring your own code base, like doing research on the web, anything like that. It could be like doing some exploration into like a feature you think you might have. And then design is very similar. You create a directory inside, and instead of exploring something you don't think you're going to do, the purpose of that design directory is something you're actually intending to do. Whereas like the explorer, you could go and explore something and then realize it's not worth doing, and then you just throw it in the dungeon, in the dungeon archive. And then whereas design, like you already know you need this feature, and you can just create the specs. And so if I type to go DE, I jump straight into the design. And these are the ones I have right now that I haven't done yet, or I'm still working on somehow. And yeah, so inside they're just basically markdown files, directories if you need. You can go as detailed as you want. And that's about it. Another thing is like when you're working with AI or just working in general, like one thing you always run into is you'll end up generating a lot of artifacts that you don't need anymore. So I have a new workflow in the camp CLI dungeon crawl. So what that is, you can add a dungeon anywhere you want with camp dungeon add, and then I'll set up a dungeon for you, like anywhere where you would want to do something like this, and it'll bring up this little menu, and it gives you like some quick options. So like I can see this, let's design, fest create, promote fest next workflow. I haven't done that one yet, so I'll keep it here. This one, I'll keep this one here. Keep that one here. Keep that here. I'll keep it out. All right, this one's gonna be a bad example because I've already cleaned this one up. If I look in the dungeon, so you got this raw JSON-L file, and then you'll have three different statuses. You have someday, and that's kind of like your backlog, like something you don't want to throw away, you don't want to archive it, it's not completed, but you think you might come back to it in the future. You have completed, so different designs are completed, and then you have archived, and the difference in completed and archived is completed something like I've already done, and archived is something that I just decided to throw away. That's the difference in that. All right, so that's like the basic idea of it. Unfortunately, I use it so much that I don't really have something to way to demo it at the moment, at least not in this campaign. But yes, so those are the 4 main workflows. And now, like when you're really going at volume, and you kind of want to eventually be able to just not even have to sit here and keep chatting with the agents, and you want to know like work's still getting done. So I've got these 4 different workflows, and like things start getting a little crazy. But like the reason I have them is like there's different use cases. Like sometimes I want a full festival if I'm doing a ton of work that I know in advance, and then sometimes I don't actually need that. And planning out the festival will end up taking longer than just doing structured specs, and sometimes all you need. But sometimes you'll use the specs, and you can promote those into a festival as well. If you really get into this, you'll be so focused and so like in flow all the time. You'll be knocking out like dozens of features a day, maybe even hundreds, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. And if you take like a break or something, you come back, you're like, well, what do I do now in this campaign? Like I don't remember what I was doing the last time I was in here. I did this camp work items command. Now what this is, it brings up a little TUI with all your work items, and they're ordered by the last time they updated. So you'll see like the stuff you touched most recently at the top, and you just go down to whichever ones are still there, like the oldest ones. So I got some really old intents that I probably just need to clean up. So I wouldn't actually want to do that. But kind of the idea with this work items feature is this is where like the full loop comes in, where you can have all these different workflows set up, and then you can basically set up like a little loop just to work through all of the work that you have. So like when I first set this up, it knocked out all of my work, and then I had to figure out what to do next. And I guess that's a pretty good problem to have if you can really do all of your work by itself. I've got my festivals. You see, I've got this camp work items festival inactive, so the festival flow has changed a little bit. So now you have to actually promote the festivals to different statuses. And the reason you have to do that is because I would notice like I start planning on a festival, I haven't even been reviewing it yet, and then the agent just decides to start executing it. And now they can't do that without promoting, and it gives them a warning. So that helps with that use case. So, and then also like sometimes like I planned out this campaign a while ago. It's not really high priority right now, and it's a bit risky, and I'm really busy, so I'm just not doing anything with it right now. It's just gonna sit and ready. You also notice I don't have that many festivals planned out, because usually I plan one out and then I execute it. So like these 2, this one I started planning, realized it's not really worth it, so it's just sitting and planning. This one, it's a bit too risky to do right now, so I'm just not doing it. And now this one's one that I actually intend to do like pretty soon. This one is just gonna allow you to do like a manual prioritization in that work items TUI. So like can't work items. You'll be able to go down and like assign a priority from 0 to 10 to boost the order. And then with that really works into the loop. So you can say, okay, you can say run can't work items and spin up opus subagents for each item, something like that. Now you can set up like a full like work loop to knock out everything you have to do. So you like spin up an opus agent and do like the can't work items one. A festival, you got multiple festivals in there. You can start working through the intents, like whatever's in there. And some of them, like if it's just this one intent, it's not like the intent that's gathered, it's probably going to do it pretty quickly. Maybe you put in some edge cases, like if it is an intent, maybe if it is a gathered intent, maybe it should be planned out to a festival or something like that. But that's like the general idea for it. I haven't been too focused on that at the moment, just because I'm trying to get this stuff out to people. Also, like another thing, whatever, my last update was the UI. So I started building the UI because with all this stuff with the CLI, like I've been a Vim user for the last 9 years or so. I've written lots of Vim plugins. Some of them are public, a lot of them are private. And I've been very into this automation. Even my first official programming job, I completely automated the code generation of my job. And so this code generation that we're doing now with LLMs, it's not that foreign to me because I've been writing scripts and I've been using them macros to do code generation long before LLMs came out. So to me, using the CLIs is awesome and super intuitive. But there's still some things that even like me as somebody who likes the terminal and generally does like 90% of all of my work in the terminal, like coding work, design work, just writing notes, because that's just the way that's the way I can stay in flow and stay focused. If I have to use like some huge piece of software, I have to go and I have to learn it. And then if I'm using like a browser, I'll get out of flow really easily, get distracted, go do something I don't really want to actually do, but it's just so easy to get distracted in a browser. So I like that, but then there's still some drawbacks, like reading Vim Markdown or with Glow. Let's jump to fast next output. Like that's it's better than just white text, but it still kind of sucks. So like with that, you're just reading that in the terminal. It can get annoying, and like the best way to really view that is in GitHub, or the easiest way for most people if you're a terminal first user, or you can open up in VS Code. And to me, VS Code is way harder to use than the terminal if you actually know how to use the terminal. It's just like another big piece of software that's clunky, not easy to navigate. So I did actually start building the app, and like part of the reason I did that is I just forget like Markdown rendering, and I can open files here, I can edit them. So I like them like editor if you have them turned on, so I can still navigate with them commands. It makes things pretty easy, and I saw the terminals, so some of the stuff I may not get all of the things I have in the CLI into the app for the first time I put the app out, but you can still see like the different dashboards and stuff I have built into the camp CLI from here. So yeah, and then also like I can start monitoring the festivals. Like I don't have this one in progress yet. Come over here. So I've got this festival right here. Oh yeah, so one other shortcut with fgo, you can toggle back and forth between the working directory and the festival, so you're not having to CD all over the place. So I can jump this one's for camp, jump straight to camp, and I did add auto linking in the current update, in the current release version of festival. Before you had to tell the agents either in the festival files, if you were switching between different projects in one festival, you had to make sure before it did any work in another project that it had to run the festlink command. So it was kind of annoying. So now if the festival is planned correctly, they'll have to put the working directory in the sequence goal file. So that way, like you can only do one project per sequence, but you can have like 20 sequences in one implementation phase, and each one could be in a different project. So then when it gets to another sequence, it auto links it to the right project, and now you can do the toggle navigate before them. And then you can do like this. You can watch the festival, and this will like update as the agents complete different tasks. You'll see like it'll mark this one's completed. It'll move down, it's turned yellow, and if it does block something, it'll show as red. So like here's that. So yeah, this whole festival was just submitting to different grant programs that I qualified for with another one of my festivals. So it was like all web-based stuff. And I got down to here, and then this one, I couldn't do that part. I have to do that one manually, so it blocked the task for me. And yeah, so like when this one's completed, this one will show as green, and then this one will open up, and this one collapses, so you don't have too much in your vision. You also use that fetch show command without that filter, and just see the entire festival. All right, so what I'll do is I'll use this add symbol in Claude Code. So yeah, projects, can't project, and run and begin working through the fest next. Festival has been fully completed. There we go. All right, so I also have skills now. I'll go back to root of the campaign. You create a campaign with the campaign command, and then if you already created one, and I push an update or something, you can do -- repair. So then that adds this campaigns directory. So if I open this, you have a bunch of different stuff in here. Yeah, like fest navigation. The intents have been moved here because the intents are really not something you want to manually edit outside of the flow, or you can break some of the integrations. And I also have skills. And now to use those skills, do camp skills, link, -- tool, Claude. And what that'll do is I'll create some links for all the skills. So you're not like duplicating the storage of the skills. And also if you use the repair command and the skills have changed, they'll still point to the right skills. That increases performance a little bit. All right, so yeah, you can add skills with camp skills, like you can do -- tool, Claude, or you can use the agent standard. Agents, that helps agents understand how to use the tools a little bit easier. Then also another thing with the festivals I haven't gone over in this video, inside the festivals directory, you have this .festival directory, and this is where all the templates are. So if you find a better way to do something, or you have like some custom thing that you're always going to want to do in that campaign, you can edit this one, and then you can also edit the All right, so you can also come in here and you can add the templates here. So like this directory, when you create new festivals directories or like initialize new campaign, it'll set this up for you. And if you had like something special you want in all your campaigns, like some difference in the templates, you can come here and make those updates in these templates. And also the only network call in this entire system, other than get wrapper commands, is for syncing template updates. So here with the default, it points to _ fest. That repo is public. Points to this methodology documents directory to this festival directory. So you can set that something up like that on your personal GitHub or anywhere where you get repos. All right, so then another thing, so like the CSW command, it's really helpful for navigating between different campaigns. So I've got a bunch of campaigns on this machine, and that's a shorthand for camp switch. So I can like switch any of these. Most of the navigation has fuzzy navigation and tab completion. And don't straight back to the campaign. And the reason it's better than Zoxide is that it's limited to a campaign. So like all the navigation is limited to inside the campaign, and then that one's limited to switching between campaigns. And with Zoxide, if you're using some kind of types of standard workspace like this, I could do Z docs in here, like go to docs, and now if I switch over to the agent campaign and do Z, or let's say I jump into one of the projects, agent bags, and now do the Z docs, jumps back to the big campaign. So you get conflicts with Zoxide. And now inside the campaign with the cgo command, you will not get conflicts because it's limited to inside the campaign. So that's the main reason I built that whole navigation system instead of just using Zoxide. I was just running into a lot of conflicts with Zoxide, especially I had festivals for every single initiative I was working on. So I could do Z festivals and not going where I wanted to go to different festivals. And so now you're like limited into this one workspace. You can jump to you can tap through all your projects. Let's say I'm in design. Say camp work items. Oh yeah, so I can actually camp dungeon crawl. So I actually can't demo the dungeon crawl now. I keep everything except for that work items one. All right, so now I'm gonna move that to the dungeon because that one was promoted to a festival. So did that, keep that one. And now do camp log, and you can see it auto committed the dungeon crawl changes. You can also, if you don't want to just put them into the dungeon where you're probably never gonna look at them unless you have to for some reason, you can also route them to the docs directory. So if you like cod to the docs, I could route them anywhere inside of here through that same menu. All right, so like this design workflow is for a company website. So now I'm in here, I can type like Zgo, Convenience Corp. So jump straight to the Convenience Corp website repo. And now I can do ZOT, and I can toggle back and forth. So that's pretty helpful. And let's see. And then there's other things, so like this one got I do camp project list, and it's going to show me all my projects. And now, like, if you're working on a bunch of these things at the same time in parallel, like if you want to see like status information, you got all these different things going on at the same time. It's kind of annoying to have to keep going in different projects trying to get status. So you can do camp status all, where you get dashboard to get status of all your projects. And then let's say I'm in the camp project, and now like the agent's added something to the campaign repo. I can do like a camp status, see what's there. I can do camp commit from inside of a project, like a different Git repo. I can commit master repo with the camp commit command. I'll just say like updated docs, and I can push it to. You can also do like camp push all. If you want to push all your repos at the same time. And then if you want the tracking from camp for reference, so you can connect like the plan documents to your actual changes. You can tell the agents to use the camp pcommit command inside a project. And when they use that, that'll give that reference. And different workflows will add like different little IDs to it. So you can really do some interesting visualizations and stuff. I also added support to both of these CLIs for plugins. So first public plugin I have is Camp Graph. So I'll just go over to GitHub. And I haven't done any integration with this yet, but it creates a knowledge graph for the campaign. And it does it a little bit different than most knowledge graphs. I was using Obsidian for a long time before I started getting into AI, and then I was using it too heavily, and now I can't open it. I never found the knowledge graph actually useful. Like that's probably the reason I used Obsidian, was seeing those knowledge graph visualizations. But it was just a pain to actually use because you had to manually reference things. And I prefer like a real structured setup, so I can like if I'm looking for something, I can intuitively understand like where is that going to be. Like looking for something for my job, I'm going to start in the job folder. And that's not how Obsidian was designed. It was designed just to throw everything in there and then you just search for everything. But that's not a very good design in my opinion. So but this graph, it creates a lot of like smaller graphs, so that like when I do integrate it, then I have more focused searching. So that'll be pretty nice. It's not like you just have to remember to tag everything properly. It'll be based on where something is in the campaign. But yeah, to create a plugin, all you need is a binary file that has this naming convention. So anything camp-graph or like FEFs would be like best extension or something like that. That's how you create a plugin if you have anything that you wanted to add to this workflow. And then like you type like camp-graph. So that's another new thing. Another thing I added. So last year, you go to my blog. I wrote this article. It's got a clickbaity title. But basically, when I first started building Guild, I started using this in like the early versions of Festival. I was getting like results that I didn't really believe, and I was a little bit worried about AI psychosis. I was trying to figure out a way like how you actually judge the performance between different AI tools, different AI strategies, different workflows. So I had this tool installed called SCC, and I noticed it just had this like dollar amount, and then it had estimated scheduled effort. So I started looking at what that is. That's this model called Kokomo, the software cost estimation model. And I was like, well, I wonder if I could use this, and now I can like judge the performance over time that I'm getting. So I looked into it, and like obviously it's easy to game. So like they have like these SCC ignore files that are similar to Ignore. So I just filter out anything I don't really care about. So it's not like something you can really compare between you and someone else, because you really have to know exactly like did you actually configure this correctly. But it is good for yourself. So what I did in that blog is I went and I just like put together a script that took all the work that I'd done with AI and then tracked it over time, like all the projects I started right like between when I wrote this blog post and when I first started using coding agents. And that gave me like a good baseline to know like what can you do with this? Like how much am I actually doing here? I wanted to update that blog post for a while, and it is a pain to actually set up the scripts to do that. Like remember all your projects are. So I built that feature into Camp with the Camp leverage command. It also has historical tracking, but this is like the score now. So this uses that same tool, that same SEC tool. You have to install that, and it'll give you a warning and instructions on how to install it if you don't have it installed. And then what it does is it'll use the git blame information from all your Git repos and calculate the SEC output for each one, and then just put it into one score. So you can track your leverage score. This one's pretty low. Like you can see like the past 30 days, 896, and then total is 320. And that's because this campaign is the first one that I started. So when I first started using coding agents, this was the first thing I set up. And like my output's been increasing like crazy over time, but it's still factoring in like over the long term. And like the 320.5, like to validate that when I wrote that blog, was I went and I looked at some professional projects I had where I actually knew the cost, I knew the team, and I knew the time that it took to build it. And the estimate from Kokomo was actually like spot on for every single one, like within maybe like a standard deviation. And that gave me enough confidence to think like this is a good way to measure this. So that's why I built this thing. Like this isn't some score that I came up with myself. This is all based on that Kokomo model, and it's just like basic math to make it useful for tracking your personal productivity with AI tools over time. And you may have like a much larger score than me. You may have a lower score when you start using this method, but if it's increasing and it's increasing and you're filtering out all the noise that gets created, like generated files, and not written by AI, but like just automated generated files and stuff. You'll get like a bad result from it. But if you do go and you filter and you tailor it, you have a pretty consistent way to track, make sure like you're actually making forward progress on what you're doing and you're not just wasting time. So yeah, so that's another feature I've added in the last couple months. And then yeah, let's go back to the app now. Okay. So that festival already completed. So you can go and you can click around in the app to read your festival files and stuff. And also, like I do have those different color schemes. This is all like tied in directly to the Fest and Camp CLI tools. So got a browser, some bugs that I need to fix on that, but basically the idea here is you have like all your work in one spot. So you can open the terminals, launch Claude Code, Codex. I also will be integrating the obey daemon into this, and then to like you get your campaigns, you can add other campaigns, and then it manages all your stuff. Yeah, so you have your campaigns, and inside each campaign you can have what I'm calling quests. I may change that at some point because I realize that there's a lot of terminology that people get annoyed with, and I also don't want people to have to have this added context. So both like when you create a campaign or you create a new quest, right now it requires you to enter in like some basic information about it, and that's really not for that's really for features that don't exist yet that I'm planning. So I'm probably going to come up with a solution for that, and maybe when I get more of the obey stuff, obey daemon, major runtime integrated, I'll make it where that'll help you with that. So that'll give you like that basically just makes it easier to organize. So like if you're doing like audit of what you were doing or like different decisions, you just have like these different layers of context that build up over time. All right, so also there's a lot of changes I'm gonna make to this before I put it out there. But like your concepts in the campaign, you can quickly filter them, and the idea eventually is like when you're in the terminal in here, you'll have like a sidebar of exactly where you are. So you don't have to keep running like ls. When you open up a markdown document, it's rendered. When you open up a mermaid diagram, it's rendered. So you're not like you get the benefits of everything, of like the terminal. You get the monitoring from the festival. So like if I had multiple ones going on at the same time or had larger ones, so that one feature festival, you'll be able to like see them going on, like their progress over time. And this will probably, I think this app will end up making the whole thing just make sense to a lot more people. Some stuff maybe doesn't make as much sense. Maybe like people need to know what a